I think we are live.
We are.
It's happy hour. It's
Cool.
4:30 Central Standard Time, 5:30 in Jay's world. Jay Williams, welcome to Drink Up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Glad to be here.
And Adam, I should have got with you. I have cases of water coming out
Right.
because Jay called my bluff and the whole bit. But we always, every show, we always talk about our sponsors, Jay, before we get going. So just delight us to let's go through that. But we always start with our number one sponsor is Freebird. So Jay Williams, thanks for the sponsorship of Drink Up. We very much appreciate it. I wanted to let everybody know that I now have cases of water. I have my Freebird hat. I got my Freebird wearables, the whole bit. And if you stick with us today, there might be a free case and some wearables available to you. And Jay will talk about the particulars of how that will work at the beginning when I introduce you. Also want to thank Alicia Vargo from Bev Assets for her sponsorship. And then Rox, we were talking about Ryan earlier, so he actually sponsors as well. And then Adam's company, Alias Advising, sponsors our podcast. So that allows us to come here every week. And so glad to have you as a special guest. I know we talked about getting into the Freebird truck, but maybe it's going to be the Freebird NASCAR. Would be really cool. But Jay, welcome to Drink Up. Why the heck would you ever want to come on a show with Adam and us and myself and talk about Freebird?
Well, Sam, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I love watching your other Drink Up lives, and they're always you've got great guests, and so I feel privileged to be here. And ever since we met, I don't know, about a year or so ago, I know we've been talking about this, so I'm excited.
Yeah, we actually hugged each other. I got a hug at BevNet in California. It was so awesome.
Yeah, it was a little too long, Sam, your hug, but
it's so funny. I think it's important to tell the story though, how I met you. It's kind of twofold actually. I met you two ways actually, believe it or not. Somehow I met Eric Martindale. And then Eric Martindale introduced me to Brad Champion. And then at the same time, Michael Kanansky or whatever said, you need to meet this guy named Jay Williams. So somehow you came in my life and I kept on texting you, hey, let's meet, the whole bit. And then like, are you going to BevNet? I'm going to BevNet, the whole bit. Then I come to find out that you grew up with Brad, I think in Atlanta. And we have one of his products we work with, Wastelight, with this little snap it in a drink and a whole bit.
It's a great product. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's working with a friend of mine, Wayne Latomsky, so we can get that thing going, especially as an ingredient in drinks. I think there's really an opportunity for him as he continues on his road. But yeah, it was just great. You just meet through networking and meeting folks. And now we're here, and God, I feel like you're one of my good friends, even though we haven't got to hug lately. We need to get that back on the agenda. So
yeah.
So
I feel the same.
Go ahead, Adam.
You guys going?
What's that?
Said BevNet's next week. You guys going?
No, I won't be there. Probably
not this year. No, not this year.
We'll be at WSWA in February in Las Vegas, Nevada at Caesars. So we're announcing our new company, joint venture, which that's not what we're here about. So we'll go in that later. But anyway, Jay, welcome. So tell us a little bit about your journey. So from international global real estate, to water, like why would you leave such a great industry, or maybe you're still in that industry, and get into beverage business?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sam. People ask me all the time. I don't always have the world's best answer, other than to say that, after 25 plus years in real estate development, just being candid, I just got tired of it. One of the aspects of my personality and my brain that, nobody wants to get in there, trust me, but is that I've got a creative outlet, and, and I'm just very entrepreneurial. I was born that way. I can't help it. It's just part of who I am. But in real estate, there's very little opportunity to use that part of my brain. And so I had been thinking for years and years about doing something like this. And, I'm not getting any younger. And finally I was like, screw it. Let's just do it, And I was very fortunate to come up with a concept that has somehow worked. I don't know how. I didn't know one person or one thing about beverage. And here I am. And it's been a hell of a journey, and I'm loving every minute of it.
It's amazing. I think when we actually met live at BevNet, you were just starting your journey, right? You were
Correct.
nowhere. You were that was your launch, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I saw you at BevNet, I was still trying to figure out what I was even doing, And so to think that honestly, so that was December 8th last year. I know that because that was the exact day that we launched. We had a video that we made up that was part of our launch, and we wanted to do it at BevNet because of, all the industry people there, and we could get a little bit publicity that way. But the truth be told is when we did that, we actually didn't even have any product ready other than what we produced for the show. We didn't sell the first can of Freebird until late March off our Shopify site, and then on Amazon a month or so later, and weren't in even the first store until like May or June.
Yeah.
And now we're in like 600 stores already. It's just incredible.
That's amazing. How's your reorders and your velocity? How are things working? Are you just like running out of stock in stores and just off the
Yeah,
shelves?
it's been phenomenal. In fact, to the point where we sold out on Amazon 2 times, where, people not in the beverage industry are like, "Oh my God, that's incredible." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but no, not really," because, but we just didn't anticipate the demand. And, I credit my team, and I've got a phenomenal team. And they've just done such a good job of helping to build awareness and, just kind of put us in a lane where we've gotten a lot of great exposure, and thankfully people love the products. All the stars have aligned somehow, and I'm just trying not to mess it up.
How do you go to market? Are you going through distribution? Are you going direct, or how does that work?
So we're doing a little bit of everything, Sam. The first deal we signed was with United Distributors out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, people talk about, imposter syndrome. Here I am sitting in, the offices of United Distributors, and I don't even know what I'm doing. I mean, barely. I have a product. I can fake it till I make it a little bit, and thankfully I can talk. I can't do much else, but I can talk pretty good. But, so in doing that, I was just dying to find out whether or not, they would take us on, because, they're well respected, they're big, and certainly in these circles around here, it's a big deal. And when they were all on board, I was floored. And so that just started it. And now we've got distribution in multiple states, and I've got a great head of sales, Eddie Pearson. I think some of you know him, and he's phenomenal. And so we're building a DSD network and just trying to really build the foundation for the company, and build it the right way.
Are you going through primarily beer, like beer wholesalers, wine wholesalers, combination of both?
Combination. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And how many states are you in currently?
So as of right this minute, we are in Georgia, we are in Tennessee, we are in Alabama, and also we are in North Carolina. But as of February, you can add South Carolina, you can add Alabama, you can add Virginia, Kentucky. I don't know. We'll be just about covering the Southeast.
Wow. And you're using Beyond Brands they use Beyond Brands as one of your people you use?
So yeah, it's an interesting relationship. I don't know that we're utilizing Beyond Brands in the traditional sense, because we literally partnered with them.
Yeah.
They were, the funny story, when we started the brand at the BevNet conference before the one that we launched at.
Yeah.
I started meeting with people, and I don't know how I tricked, all these good people to meet with me. But I met. I don't. Yeah. Well, listen. I think I do have an advantage of having a little more experience. As you can see in the gray of my beard, like yours, Sam. But I think that met with a lot of the LI libations. I met with I can't remember the guy's name from Suja. I met with some others, but I met with Beyond Brands. I met with Eric Schnell. And I'll never forget it. One of the most important moments in my career. I'm sitting there in the lobby of BevNet meeting with Eric, and I showed him, and what I did was I mocked out the entire brand of Freebird. So as if the brand already existed, the entire thing, every SKUs for the future, merch, tents, like it was already there. And when I showed Eric, he lost his shit in a positive way. And when he did that, I literally about peed in my pants, because, I just didn't know. I had no idea what to expect. And so from that moment forward, Eric was like, "You got to meet my COO, and you got to meet Eddie, and you got to meet everybody." And so a week later, we struck a deal, and we're partners ever since. And Eric's an advisor. Eddie's on my team. And, a couple other folks, join in and help where needed. So yeah, it's fantastic. I couldn't have asked for better partners.
Yeah, and Karen came in hot and said the greatest quote of the year is "Screw it, let's do it." What's that about?
So Karen is another great member of our team and our marketing team. And I think she's figured out by now, she's only been with us about a month, but I think she's figured out that, I don't really mess around. And so when I say screw it, let's do it, I mean it. Like, let's go, and
So when Jay says screw it, let's do it, that's signal
right.
for let's go.
Yeah.
So so we have a few people joining. We got like 5 people, and I don't know if you found the live stream. If not, I can see it on my phone, which is weird. So maybe LinkedIn is blocking me, but I can see it on my phone that it's out there. But so you can win a case of Freebird, and we can also win some wearables. How can people do that or joining us today?
Yeah. So, in my efforts to hype up your podcast here, I've offered out a free case of Freebird and a hat to whoever comments the best question or that. Yeah. And whoever comments the funniest question. Cause I can't be serious all the time. I certainly can't. So yeah. So we'll just, we'll see how it goes and let the people, make the decision for us.
Great. Well, we got Jeff is on the line, Peyton Sandler. So let's see what kind of questions they'll bring. And then we got Debbie and Karen. I don't know if you found me yet. If you go to my LinkedIn, you don't see me on LinkedIn, huh? That's really interesting. I feel kind of like shadow banned.
If it's if it's going, it's going. I'm glad to hear it. I'm trying to keep an eye on the comments on LinkedIn, and I'm not seeing it at all. But that could totally be an issue on my side. So,
well, Sam, it's possible. Sam, it's very possible that we've broken the internet.
That's true. That is completely true. So let's talk about this, like functional beverages, water beverages. A friend of mine posted something about liquid death today. Liquid death seems to be losing their way. I'm just going to say it. I call it jump the shark. Now, some people were like, Liquid Death's going to come after me. I'm not saying it's a bad brand, but it seems like they're trying to be everything to everyone. And at some point now they're playing in energy drinks. And I think when you start playing in energy drinks, that's a different consumer. They're buying that for function. They're also buying it, so they're not buying, Liquid Death wasn't that, but now they're playing in energy. So give me your thought around like kind of the water category. What makes you different, and how do you, as a founder, how do you win in the category, or how are you winning?
Yeah, well, I get the question all the time, like, why of all categories would you go into water? And I said, well, because it's the biggest. I'm not afraid of the competition because I know that selling water is a branding exercise. Most people aren't buying water for the water. Even the ones that say they do, I'm not sure I always believe them, but that's fine. I think they're influenced by the brand. And so, I could go into, we could have done kombucha, or, we could have done some sort of, mushroom infused drink, or all these other things, which are great ideas, but those are narrow lanes. I'd rather go into the highway. I don't want a 1-lane road. I want to go on a highway. And, last I checked, there's room for several cars on the highway. And so, and Liquid Death's a great example because, they've done a fabulous job, despite what you mentioned, which is, they certainly have gotten significantly diversified, and I'll leave it to them to figure out if that's working or not. But as it relates to us, they paved the way because they effectively created a new category. This brand centric canned water. Mm-hmm. And what I found out there, and the reason why I created Freebird, is because I didn't see any viable competition for them. And just like I'm in Atlanta, so when you talk about categories in beverage, you can't avoid talking about Coca-Cola. And so long ago, they created a category, and it wasn't till Pepsi and some others came along till they had viable competitors. And so I see it the same way. I think that Liquid Death created something very unique. They've been successful, but they just opened up a big white space for somebody else to come in. And, with Freebird, I wanted to create something that was about America. I have an Americana vibe, blue collar, small town, kind of your everyday, heroes, something more mainstream. And so that's why we created the brand, quite frankly. And I'm pleased that Liquid Death has, created this trail. They blazed the trail, and we'll be glad to take the same trail as long as they don't get mad at us when we pass them by one day.
All right, so I got some questions coming in here because
okay, bring it.
Yeah, you're like a rock star. Debbie asked, "I'm curious how you arrived at the name Freebird. I love it, by the way." And then Yen Min said, "Same as Debbie. I would love to know more about the brand name and the story behind it. Thank you very much. And then Cogs, everybody knows Cogs, Casa Goods out of Canada. He says, what's the story behind choosing the name? So everybody is asking about why Freebird. I already know why it is because of the band, Leonard Skinner. That's why you brought it up, right?
So yes and no, actually. Of course, at the end of the day, that's where the name is most synonymous with. But honestly, I woke up at 4 a.m. with this whole idea, and it's like out of a movie. I woke up, pulled out my phone, went to my notes app, and just kept typing. I just had like this flow of thoughts. I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. I knew exactly what I wanted to feel like. And I wanted to create something that, I always say I wanted to create a brand with a soul. A lot of brands can throw a slogan out. A lot of brands can, do some fancy colors and designs and whatnot. But what's after that? What's it going to mean to the person? And again, it's water. So like we can't save the world, but what we can do is we can make people feel something when they're holding the can in their hand. And so the name came literally just to the top of my head. I thought for sure the name was taken. So I didn't even think for a second that I was going to get it. I'm very pleased that the band, which I have a lot of respect for, apparently was, they were doing their own substances back then and they forgot to trademark for anything besides the music.
That is amazing. That was so did you trademark Freebird?
Yeah. We're still in the process because, that takes a while. But yeah, isn't that wild?
That's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So here's another.
I have to jump in. With a couple things. Your comment on, somebody said this to me months ago, but your comment about playing on the highway, operating on a highway as opposed to a 2-lane road. Somebody asked me the question one day, and I forget how it even got brought up, but they said, who's the number 2 largest shot style beverage? And I was like, I have no idea. And they went, well, who do you think's number 1? I was like, 5 Hour Energy. And they go, mm-hmm. And I went, well, who's number 2? They're like, I don't know, but that's my point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The point is there's an entire category of potential there, right?
Correct.
And I think you're saying a very similar thing, and I think it's a phenomenal point. The other thing, and somebody just asked, they were trying to get coolest question points. Best question. This is RM, so an abbreviated name, and maybe you know who that is. So going for best question here, do you want to be cooler, Jay? Like, have you ever considered parachuting into Normandy with Freebird for D-Day commemoration? Sky's not the limit, and in celebration of the 250th anniversary of America.
Right, so you got to send your address to us or post them here because in the chat, because we, that might be a winner.
First of all, I do know who that is. Yeah, I've considered a lot of things. Thankfully, I have a family that doesn't, at least I don't think they want me to die quite yet. They're trying to hold me back on some of the things I'd like to do.
That depends who you asking your family, Jay. I bet you if I asked a couple people, they might have an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, we've considered a lot. And by the way, the 250th anniversary is big time in our plans for sure.
Sure. So I'm curious, and I promise, because we're going to get, as we can tell already, a shitload of questions for this, 40 minutes or whatever we have left. And so I'll keep this brief.
We can go all night.
Right? Yeah. Eventually, my wife's going to come home and expect me to hang out with her.
Yeah.
Rude, I know.
Hey, this is Freebird. It's an exception. Like, hey,
right?
babe.
Yeah.
We got Jake Williams on the line. We're going all night. You heard it here.
You talk about, in the early days, and for sure, shout out to Eric. It's been a couple of years since I saw him, but the last time was also at BevNet. But you talk about the early days in these conversations and how you didn't know anything, but that, knew how to talk to people, you knew how to come up with a business idea, and people seemed to want to buy what you were selling, right? I talked to a lot of brand owners who, despite feeling like they might have a plan, just can't get people on board. And then there's this you guys selling a much more straightforward product by comparison to anybody else that I work with. Like, I don't have anybody doing just a straight water right now, right? And they're just beating their head against the wall. So from your perspective, was it the fact that you sat down and kind of planned everything out ahead of time? Was it the fact that you were just coming in going, hey, I'm new to this, but I'm ready to learn. I'm willing to be a sponge. Was there a particular thing that you think was the reason that people were like, oh, I'm down to do this with you?
Gosh, that's a really, really good question. And I don't know the answer. I think the answer might come from others that would have encountered me during that period of time.
Sure.
But one thing I can tell you for sure, my plan was loose. I mean, my plan existed up in this mess up here.
Sure.
And I just tried to hone it as I was going forward and tried to figure it out. I think the one thing that maybe I could say to that maybe is at least one positive that I could lean on, which was, I don't know why, I just was super, super confident. Once we came up with this brand, I have a wonderful designer named Christina, who is somehow able to interpret the spaghetti that comes out of my brain when I tell her what I'm looking
I tried
for.
to interpret that every day, by the way.
Yeah, well, me too. Yeah, and I don't even know. But and so when we finally sort of arrived at, at this is actually the 12 ounce, but the 19.2 ounce, that was our flagship kind of. Yeah, exactly. We were both just, I in particular was just positive. I was like, we've got something here. I know it. I just know we do. So I think that there's an element talking to younger entrepreneurs, again, it helps to be a little older and have some experience, but also a lot of people go into businesses like this a little bit scared. And you can sometimes tell that. I'm too dumb to be scared. I'm just like full gas, no brakes. And so, when that happens, I think the passion and the enthusiasm just, exudes. And I feel like that, people respond to that. And thankfully, I think it may not work, if I just had a completely shitty brand, but I think that, we hit on something that is working, but I think also just it allows for that conversation to be easy. And one more thing I'll say is, unlike a lot of brands out there that you have to figure out what they are, it doesn't take you 5 seconds to know what we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And what we stand for. And I think that matters, because people have short attention spans and they're not interested. They don't want to be explained, what something is. They want to be able to figure it out. And if they don't find it in 5 seconds, they're going to move on to something
Well,
else.
Yen Min says, love, create a brand with a soul. And then Stephanie has a question. I'll just stream it here. Why did you decide to share your story and personality on LinkedIn? Because quite frankly, people gravitate to your brand because of you. You are a big part of the brand, at least from my estimation.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I never intended to. So, when I started on LinkedIn, it was a little over a year ago, and I did it 100% for the reason of supporting Freebird. That was the only reason why I did it. I thought I was just going to sort of do the typical corporate approach and throw some stuff out there. And then I wrote a couple of posts that were a little bit more personal, and I saw the reaction, and I was just like, let's just do it. Let's just go. If we're going to do it, do it. And so I decided just to go all in, and, that unleashed a monster, because now I'm just, like a lunatic on there sometimes. And, I have to hit the brakes every now and then, because, if you think some of the stuff I write is a little off, imagine the stuff that I erase. But I enjoy it. And, what I love is the fact that I've somehow, connected with a lot of people through just whether it's something funny or whether it's something serious or inspirational or whatever it is. And also I've just enjoyed it connecting with people. Like Sam is a great example. Like, before that, a little bit too long hug that Sam gave me at BevNet.
I'm a great hugger, man.
Yeah, you're a fantastic hugger. We had already kind of created this little relationship. And so, I think that a lot of people on LinkedIn forget that it's a two-way street, and so I feel like that you need to, if you're really going to have these relationships on LinkedIn or other platforms, be all in on those, don't like just sort of feign it. Like, if you care about somebody and you're interested in what they're doing, help them out or give them advice. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had people reach out, and I'm here to help. I mean, I don't know whether I can help or not, but I like it. I think that's the community that at least that matters to me. And if I get a little silly every now and then, so be it. That's part of it.
Yeah, we got some questions coming out of Adam, but you want to take them? I'll just take one, and then you can take the next one.
I'm going to start with, which, by the way, before I get into questions, I'm just going to say, I think your comment about people responding, and whether that's distributors or the Beyond Brands or whoever it is in the world, talk to, again, and I'm sure Sam can relate to this too. It sounds like, you just touched on it today. Like, I think we all talk to so many brand owners who it feels like their volume's not at 11. Right? Like they don't have that just, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't be a founder without that, but it's going to be a different road.
Yep.
Then, if your torch is burning as brightly as it possibly can all day, every day, like, people are going to be drawn to the flame, right? Like that whole kind of, so I love that you called that out, right?
Yep.
So the question Kogs posted on LinkedIn, which shout out to Mr. Lutovsky with Brandartica for finding the LinkedIn link and sending it to me. So I'm tuned in now. Kogs said, the NASCAR move is intriguing. Is there any planned retail promotion coinciding with the race schedule next year?
Yes. Yeah. And so, one of the cool things about a company like ours is we get to do a lot of cool things. And so, we've done rodeos, for music shows and tours and all these different things. And, all of a sudden, we had all kinds of interest from NASCAR. I mean, a lot. And, at first we were considering, but you're like, I don't know, maybe not. And then, when you get the big daddy, one of the biggest racing teams in the world comes knocking on your door, that's when you open the door.
I got a text message from Jay on a Saturday or Sunday from the NASCAR.
Yeah. I mean, and it's super cool. We partnered with Chase Briscoe, one of the best drivers in the world. He did, literally the weekend after we signed the deal and announced it, he won. And he got out of his car with a Freebird in his hand, and I about lost my mind. I literally almost cried. I could cry now just thinking about it.
I mean, I felt honored. Like, hey, check this out.
Well, I mean, there's only so many people that can really appreciate, how did I get here? How in the world am I sitting literally 5 feet from this car at NASCAR race with my driver, our driver now, our partner, who just won a race, and he's walking out of the car holding a Freebird. How does that happen? It's wild. It's crazy.
You don't need champagne anymore. You just need Freebird for this celebration, man. That's it.
Oh, yes.
That's all you need.
So I'm assuming what you just said is the answer to this question, but I'll read the one on LinkedIn, and Sam, you can take the one on Riverside.
Okay.
Josh Harrington, who you may or may not know, but if not, Josh is good people. He lives here in Minnesota with us. He said, what's your biggest win to date? Would you say it's the NASCAR partnership?
My biggest win to date, because I have to do this, I can't tell you yet.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that one.
Stay tuned? Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Eddie just had a heart attack. So...
Well, you have to come back on the show and announce when you're ready.
We will. I will. I was hoping I could tell you today, but so the biggest win to date, NASCAR's big, yeah, for sure. But I think really the biggest win to date is the fact that, this unknown guy in Beverage, walked into United Distributors, and they took me on, and, and since June, what is that, 5-6 months, we're in 600 stores. We're selling out on Amazon, and we're already projected to be in 1,500 stores by next, April.
That's amazing.
I think that's the win, it's just the acceptance of what we're doing and the enthusiasm behind it. I've never felt so much momentum in my life, and it's a blessing. I'm really, really grateful, and I'm having too much fun. That's the other thing. I laugh all the time, and I tell all my, people that work with me, I'm like, I know I'm in the Truman Show. And for the young people who don't know what that is, go Google it. But, all the time, I just wonder how this is even happening. And so, that's sort of a fun way to exist for a little while,
That's awesome. So let me just bring, there's a lot of comments, a lot of questions too. Stephanie asked, why did you decide to share your story on LinkedIn? We answered that. And then let's see here, Yemen, where did the concept Freebird come from? I believe we answered that, right?
Yep. I think I can expand a bit on that. I really wanted to create a brand for America. And I know that sounds cliche, but there are a lot of brands out there that claim that they're doing that, but they don't lean in. I wanted to lean in a way that felt authentic and be real about it. And I think our timing, the country, was pretty good, with people maybe feeling that way a little bit. But, I think also there's too much, there's all the political upheaval, there's all the negativity out there. And we wanted to be a positive aspect of that. We're not here to choose a political party. We're not here to take a side. Anybody who loves America, then they should love Freebird, because, your America and my America and her America and his America may all be different, but I'm happy with all of them. Freebird's about everybody's America, not just one person's view.
I love that. I love that. It really sings well. So Debbie says, I don't think I've ever seen water in aluminum cans. That's a great way to stand out as a brand. Jay on LinkedIn is the best. So maybe tell about why you chose aluminum cans.
Well, first of all, every day you read something next about plastic. And so it was clear to me that, we needed to be a little more responsible in how we approach the business from the environmental standpoint. But the other thing is, speaking of BevNet and these different, conferences out there, it really made an impact on me because, I remember being out in California for the BevNet that's happening, like the one that's happening right now out there in Los Angeles, looking at all the coolers. And I was like, it's interesting. Like there's almost everything's in a can out here. And I thought to myself, well, maybe that's because it's California. Things sort of sometimes start out there and they work their way across the east, to the East Coast. So I thought maybe that's what it was. And then there was another conference in New York, and I looked in all the coolers and saw all these different beverages. And again, same thing. I'm like, there's no plastic bottles anywhere. And then I started looking at like what my kids were doing and just observing the world. Everybody was drinking something in a can, and it's just cooler. And it allows for much better branding opportunities. And also, the other thing is that people aren't drinking as much alcohol as they used to. And so with that being the case, when they're out, does somebody really want to walk around with a Dasani in their hand? They feel like they're sticking out. They don't feel like they can fit in. And so, you drink something like this, it does look a little bit like a beer. And so people can feel like they're fitting in, even if they're not drinking, alcohol. And so there's a lot of those factors that drove us to aluminum. And I couldn't be more happy that we chose it.
All right. So this other question, and Adam, you can take some more, but Captain, I think that's Jeff.
It's Jeff. Yeah.
This must be an inside thing because I don't remember talking about cereal boxes. But Jay, how did your passion for collecting cereal boxes change your outlook on life in general? And how does that play into the overall ideation of Freebird?
Yeah. So clearly Jeff is trying to win the dumbest question. And he knows as well as I know that when I claimed I was collecting cereal boxes, that it was a joke. So I don't
serious, I guess.
Yeah, I don't collect cereal boxes. I mean, anybody who does, good for them.
Funny.
But leave it to Jeff,
Right.
Yeah.
We got, let's see. So since that, God, I got to scroll for so long. You guys are blowing us up. This is awesome. Let's see.
Get to everybody, but where you're looking, I'm like, after big wins, do you go to your favorite restaurant and get a shrimp cocktail? Is Eddie's question.
Yeah, I do actually. I love a good shrimp cocktail, Eddie.
So do you know Eddie? Is this like Eddie knows that you like shrimp cocktails?
Yeah. Every time Eddie and I have ever had dinner together, I order a shrimp cocktail. So that's a little joke. But yeah, I mean, what better way to celebrate than a shrimp cocktail?
Yeah, and Yen Men says Freebird reminds me of the UK brand Dash Water. Let's see, and both your brand and Dash Water have your unique elements. So I'm not sure who Dash Water is.
Cool.
You look into Dash Water.
Yeah, they must be cool then.
So all right. I love Sam's point about Liquid Death and them, kind of creating this new white space. And, you guys both use that term, like creating this new space. And then it kind of feels like intentionally leaving it, which feels weird, right? Did better. Otherwise, maybe it'll work out for them. Obviously, we hope the best for them. But
yeah,
from your perspective, you've got all these cool things happening. You're enjoying the shit out of it. Like, how do you not because I'm sure you get the questions. You have to, because I know other people, like, how do you not let, the random distributor or the random sales guy be like, hey man, the water's amazing. What about an energy drink? Hey man, the water's amazing. What about a protein infused? Like, how do you keep yourself tuned into, no, this is my lane and I'm staying in it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I learned a long time to keep the main thing. And I have to remind myself of that all the time because my brain goes everywhere. I mean, I'm just naturally just mess up there. But
you're not going to relate. Alicia's like, yeah, that's Sam. He's like, let's do the next thing. Let's just go. Right. She's like, no, just focus.
Yep. And, and the other thing that I would say is that, when we have these different ideas and opportunities that come our way, we just have to stay disciplined in what we're doing because we're building. We're not ready to go out and do 10 different things yet. Yeah, would we like to have some flavored waters maybe in a year or so? Sure. We'd like to add some SKUs. We're not going to go crazy like Liquid Death has done, but I feel like that there's a place for that because, you want to have a brand that's got a little bit broader spectrum of products. But, we gotta win in our first round before we go to the second. So, it's tempting. There are a lot of cool ideas out there, but that's not us. We know who we are and we don't need to go do protein or kombucha or other things like that. There are plenty of wellness brands out there that can do all kinds of good stuff like that and more power to them. And there's a lot of good ones doing a great job. That's just not us. If you ever hear me, saying I'm going to throw some, protein and whatever in Freebird, come knock me in the head, because I
You're
just don't think
signaling
that's
us
for
your
us.
distress. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
we have an
Tell me
international
to.
opportunity coming on the line here. So Yen Men says, at which point, first of all, there's two questions. At which point did you decide to produce certain franchise products, e.g. hoodies, cabs, etc., and why? Because I was asking for it. That's why he made it
Yeah,
for
because
me.
what Sam wants, Sam gets. So, I think that with Freebird, again, and this is no, offense to someone like a Dasani, but nobody wants to wear a Dasani shirt. I mean, sorry, they just don't. But Freebird's got a different cachet to it, and because of the song, and because it's just, it's one of those terms where even if you're younger and maybe you don't know Freebird the song, and maybe you don't know Leonard Skinner, you still think that you've heard of it before. It just feels familiar. And so we think that there's an opportunity to build a little bit of a, a lifestyle vibe type of approach, where we can do some cool stuff. So I think it's a natural extension. We can't go crazy with it. That's not where we're going to, become a $1 billion company. It's going to be from our main product. But I feel like as an extension of our brand, if we can do some cool stuff that fits, and that is a natural connection with what our brand stands for, then why not?
Are you looking to spread in Yemen spreading into Europe and Asia?
So if that's a problem I need to solve in a few years, where we need to be there, then I'll cross that bridge later. But I want to conquer America first. I'll deal with it with everywhere else later. But sure. I mean, if we're doing well enough and we think it's going to work, that's great. But Liquid Death, for example, have already shown that it's not that easy to do. So I think that that's the other benefit of being second. We can watch and see some of the things that they've done that have worked or have not worked, and take cues accordingly.
And then, let's see, Brianna says, sorry, they're just popping in, Adam, so
Coming
just
through,
jump in. But Brianna, can you make a mini truck ornament for Christmas?
No. But I think the idea is cool, and maybe it's something we might do in the future, because I think there's a lot of stuff like that could be really, really cool. And by the way, to your question earlier, that's where where I gotta like take a breath, because I want to do all this stuff. And for example, I mentioned Eddie earlier. Eddie's great at sort of helping me get back into focus, because there are so many opportunities. This brand just is it fits so many different ways. There's so many cool things. One thing for sure, and speaking of my team, all these folks like Eddie and Larissa and Christina and Peyton and Karen, who have been around the beverage industry for such a long time, they tell me all the time, like, what's happening here with Freebird is not normal. Like, all the opportunities, all the trajectory that we're just breaking through these barriers so quickly, like, it just doesn't happen. And
It's a religion, man. This is a religion. This is a cult, man. You have a following.
Hey, listen, as long as we don't end up like Waco, then I'm all for the cult.
You want to take Cassie Smith's question, Adam?
Well, I'll take a few. Let's see, Cassie. So I'm losing track. Was Cassie on LinkedIn or Riverside?
LinkedIn.
I'm not seeing that one. So you can take that one in a second. I'll take the couple that have come in on Riverside. So
Go ahead. You go, and I'll
Eddie said in response to your comment about your relationship with him, in all caps, "You have no idea." And Jeff's trying real hard to win the funnest question. He said, "Freebird water bong."
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, not on our radar.
So, Sam, first, you want to take Cassie's question?
Yeah. So, is it normal that I gotta pull it up here? Is it normal that every time I drink a Freebird and a bald eagle spawns right behind me, and Kenny Chesney starts playing in my, I don't know, I guess in my background or whatever. So I guess she's having hallucinations of eagles. Well, definitely every time I drink Freebird, the eagles are right at my door right here, right now.
Yeah. At the risk of offending somebody out there, fuck yeah. That's exactly what should happen.
It's happening here.
One of my favorite reviews, sometimes we get the reviews that we get will highlight. And my favorite one of all time is that every time I drink a Freebird, I feel American as hell. And I'm like, that is it. That is who we are. We're American as hell. And I love that.
So here's a question from Yen Men too. Sorry. Yeah. And then
no, go ahead.
You take Yen Men's question. I think you're going to take it.
Well, so I was gonna start with my own, but hers kind of speaks to it. I'll use hers and to piggyback mine. So her question was, how often do you do data analysis? I'm launching my business this month, so I'm keen to know, and I'll dovetail that with whether it's members of your team or your own decisions or whatever, through that data analysis, how do you decide? I mean, if you're getting all these opportunities, you're breaking through all these barriers, how do you figure out as a team, yes to this one, not right now to that one? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, money, because all these opportunities are great, but guess what? They cost money. So we got to be smart about that. The second thing that I would say is from a data standpoint. So, early on in a beverage brand, and you guys know this more than I do, it's a little bit hard to discern the data because, you're new and people don't know you, and, whether you get a rebuy in a store or not, or how quickly it happens, all those things I feel like are a little bit skewed because they're not based upon sort of a normalized environment. So I think that how I would answer the question is we're just now getting to the point where that data is more relevant, and so I think she mentioned that she's starting a new brand.
Yeah.
It takes a little while. The most of the data that I would say that at least that I'm evaluating what's right in front of me, and that is, how are people responding to us? What are we hearing that could be negative that we need to adjust? What is it that allows us to, getting into a store is one thing, but getting your product off the shelf and into somebody's shopping cart is another. So those are the data points that are, at this point at least, the ones that are more pertinent. But we are now, because we've started to have some traction, we're now starting to see a little bit more data that actually matters. And so I'll have a better answer for that probably 4 or 5 months from now. But in the meantime, I think that you just have to, some of it's also just a big gut check. You just have to, sometimes take a little time, think through it and figure it out. And also it helps to have a great team, really does.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so Ryan Howman with Rocks, who I know you've spoken to,
Yep.
he and I talk about that constantly because he comes from, and it's I say it with a smile on my face just because it's great to be able to work with him, but the distance between us in terms of where the Venn diagram overlaps is funny because, I come from working with only startups for almost a decade. And he comes from working with really only some of the biggest players in the beverage space, whether that's beer or elsewhere, from 2 decades. And so, we'll talk about things and he'll be like, well, what's the sales data for this brand look like? And I'm like, oh, Ryan, you assume there's sales data. You assume it's older than 3 months old. Hilarious, right? Or we'll talk about, he's like, well, we can get this price for this ingredient. I'm like, I'm sure you can. Can you get it when we're only buying 50 pounds? Is that all we need? Not only is that all we need, that's going to last us 3 runs. So yes, right.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
floors him. So I love your call out. Let's see. Who else is we getting so many comments? This is cool.
Yeah, Men's calling both of you guys out. Thank you very much, Adam and Jay. I'm about to run a stall and do online launch several platforms. I will keep an eye out on the data in the coming months. So, this is what's powerful about this. What we do here is just share and learn, right? A founder like you to come on our podcast and share your learnings is so powerful. So we very much appreciate it. I do want to, so with the remaining minutes, we always ask a question. And Adam, you get to take the question today, actually. So it's a very important question that we ask everybody that comes on the podcast with us, and then we can probably have some backup questions to it.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing. I'm like, oh shit, we're almost out of time. We should probably start to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So the question, Jay, and you've heard us ask it before, I know you know what's coming, is for you, for your experience, what's the difference between success and failure?
Yeah. I'd say that probably it starts with, I mean, it sounds, I don't know, almost too simple to say this, but it's just peace of mind that you feel like you're doing the right thing. They feel like you're treating people right. You feel like that you're building something, with, and when I say with purpose, I don't mean like I'm trying to save the world or anything like that, but just trying to do something good, trying really, really hard to build something meaningful. And so from the standpoint of what that looks like, I think probably it looks like that our trajectory is going right and we're making good decisions. I mean, honestly, it's not a dollar amount to me. It's not we beat the competition here or there, or we're in X amount of stores. I mean, yeah, all those are great, important things. And I relish those moments and I try to celebrate them. But at the end of the day, like, I'm more interested in, are we doing the right things every day to get better? And if we are, then I feel like that we're on the right path.
I would love to put you and Adam Kroner in a room together and just listen.
My God, yeah, I got a chance to meet Adam at NBWA, and he had this young man that founded a brand called Copa Tequila Cocktails, and he started in Jersey. He's going to do about 8,000 cases this year, and he came to NBWA to open up a bunch of markets. And Adam goes, "Well, how many accounts are you in New Jersey?" He goes, 150. He goes, "Well, what's the opportunity?" He goes, 1,000. And he looked at me and said, "Why are you here?"
Right. Yeah.
So you haven't closed your opportunity in your marketplace, and you're trying to get more. And
Right.
stay in your home market and build your home market first. So here's the backup to the question. What keeps you going, man? You're such a fun person to, and I pull up my LinkedIn feed. I'm like, I'll put things out there just to mess with you, but I know that it's in kind or whatever to see if you'll respond to me. But what keeps you going? Like, this is not easy. This is not an easy business.
I am so fueled by what we are doing. I've never been more fulfilled in my entire career. You take my entire real estate career, and I'm not saying throw it in the garbage, but I don't care about it. Like, this is what I was meant to do. I just am a little late getting here, but I love it. Even the problems aren't really problems to me. Eddie, speaking of Eddie again, he jokes all the time about the fact that, like, I don't seem to sweat anything. And, part of it is that I'm probably not smart enough to know what I should be stressed about. But, more importantly, I feel like that, I love what I'm doing and I love the people I'm doing it with. I talk about it all the time, but, it matters that my team is amazing. We're a small company, a new company, a young company, but we've got the makings of what I think is the dream team. So I couldn't do it without them. They make me look good, and I get out of here, I can just talk and say stupid things, and and we keep rolling. But at the end of the day, like, I'm fueled by that. I want them to be successful. I want us to be successful, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And that, to me, that's enough.
Yeah, this is kind of with a follow-up question from you, men. Based on that, you're energizing stuff. Do you follow your gut feelings when you build your brand? Young men ask. I mean, do you follow your gut and this stuff?
100%. When my gut told me that, when we saw that first Freebird can, when I saw it, my gut told me I have got something. I really am onto something here, and I don't see anything else like it in the market. And so I'm just going to go. And that's the other thing. Like, one of the things that people talk about is, depending on who you talk to in the beverage business, it's like, don't go too fast. Then you hear other people, don't go too slow. And it's one of these things. And the way I look at it is, we're going to go responsibly, but I'm not going slow. Like, we got momentum here, and I'm riding the wind, and we're going to go. And, ultimately, resources do come into play. You got to be smart about what you're doing. But, these opportunities aren't happening because we're doing the wrong things. And so that part of, like, my gut tells me, okay, let's keep going, because I think we're onto something.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a plan at your work. So Captain Jeff, he says, Jay, you have developed a merchandising plan in terms of displays and signage. And how did you start that process? So obviously you're in these 600 stores. What's the plan around that?
We, from the very get-go, I did not want to be perceived as a startup company. I wanted to look like we knew what we were doing professionally from the first day. And it helps to have, again, a great team that can help us execute on that, and they know the things that we need to have. But I didn't want to look like we were just sort of limping in and dipping our toe. That's bullshit. I don't do that. Like, I wanted to be like, I wanted to look like Liquid Death. I didn't want to sit next to Liquid Death on the shelf and look like we were new. I wanted to look like we were a badass company and we were ready for business.
You are. You are
Yeah,
badass.
and that's been our philosophy from the beginning. So like, we've got all the things, and I don't even know what they're all called yet. I'm still figuring all that out, but all the things that you need for the stores, I mean, the display cases, all this stuff from day one. We spent the money, I mean, responsibly, but to make sure that we looked like we were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you made the comment of, I'm getting here, albeit a little bit late, but I think so many founders and I'm younger by a year or two than Sam, for example, right? Just a few months, right? But the point I'm getting at, right, is like you call out having a whole career before this and, your interactions with your team, nothing feels like a problem, right? And that doesn't mean it's not. That doesn't mean it's not worth a solution or worth time or effort, right? But like I I spend a lot of time again talking to brand owners who I'll be like, all right, let's assume this thing happens. Give me 3 things you're going to do in response to it. And I'll tell them, like, I'm going to give you the answer of what I would do, but I want to hear you think about it first.
Yeah.
And so many of them in their mid and early 20s, their late 20s are like, well, I don't know. Okay. Like, life will teach you that that's not an acceptable answer. You've got to come up
Yeah.
with something. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think, maybe late, sure, by some metrics, but also like probably the exact right time than others. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, there's no better time than right now. And I do think when you're younger, you tend to freak out, and I don't know. I don't know why things don't faze me. I really don't, but they don't. I think it's just because I've seen enough. In real estate, there's a problem every 5 minutes. It's just
Yeah.
the nature of the business. If you're not resilient and you can't handle that, then you got to do something else. And so
Right.
I think I'm just used to it. So that sort of measured approach allows me to, make what I hope to be good decisions.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
I know we're coming up on time. Sam, you want to do the round table on closing thoughts?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So, Jay, is there anything that we talked about that you want to reemphasize with the group or things that we miss in our discussion in the group? And then finally, how do they find your product? Like if I want to go get some Freebird, how do I go find it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much. This conversation's great. I could talk about this all day. I mean, we could literally go all night. Next time we should. Let's do like a 24-hour marathon or
Oh,
something.
yeah, we're doing that. We're doing the NASCAR. We'll get the NASCAR driver with us.
Perfect. That's great.
Oh, but
Yeah, but first of all, yeah, so you can find us in convenience stores throughout the Southeast. You can find us on Amazon at Drink Freebird, and drinkfreebird.com is all you can find us, and at Drink Freebird for our socials. And very soon, after the first of the year coming up, you'll start finding us in some other stores that I can't say what they are yet, but it's going to be exciting as hell. And we'll be gradually expanding throughout the Southeast and beyond.
all right. And then those of you that asked your questions, if you want to just text to us your email or reach out to Jay or myself or Adam via DM, Jay's very gracious. There might be some Freebird in your world.
Definitely.
Couple you, but again, we'll have to, as a committee, we'll make the vote and we'll maybe reach out to you and let you know
Yeah.
who you
Cool.
are that won the merchandise. So we do appreciate that as well. And I very much appreciate you. We've been talking about this forever. It makes my heart
Great.
so warm to have you here. Alicia knows it. I'm getting teary eyed. So and I just thank you so much for just gracing us with your personality, who you are. It just brings so much energy to my world. And hopefully those that join us today brings them energy too, because you're just such a positive force on people. So keep on being who you are. I very much appreciate it. And Adam, you can close her down.
Thank you,
take this.
Sam. That's too kind.
I'll echo Sam's point, but in a different way. I'm sitting here wondering, like, God, I wonder if this guy's hiring. I think you're,
You guys can have a conversation offline.
You're right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think to echo Sam's point, right? Like we've known each other virtually for a while, but like your energy fucking comes off you in waves, man. Like it's unreal. And that, that's cool. It's just cool. It's been fun to
Thanks.
have you. I think you've called out a lot of really solid points for brand owners. You've clearly, I think, we don't even need to count it. You've clearly set a record for the amount of commenters we've had in a single fucking podcast. So
Awesome.
record
You
setting,
will,
right?
baby.
America,
right.
fuck yeah, right?
Yes, right.
So no, this was super fun and I appreciate the time, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, you guys are awfully nice to have me on. We'll definitely have to do it again. And I love this format because, again, you can talk about some fun stuff, but also talk about sort of the meat and potatoes of the business. And like I said, I can talk about it all day. I love it.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
thanks, Adam. Thanks, Jay. Thanks everyone for joining us on this happy hour. Hope you enjoy the cold here. It was -10 today. I think it's gonna be like 18 below tomorrow in Minneapolis. So I'm gonna warm up my Freebird, and I think you can make coffee with it, by the way. I have a
Hell
coffee
yeah.
mug. So you can make it
Absolutely.
with anything. So I'm gonna have some Freebird coffee for
Yep.
sure. So
Cheers, y'all.
cheers.
Good idea. Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.